Hey guys, this is Will with LearnChess101.com, and today we're going to go over an interesting game. Nothing particularly exciting happens. It's not like a 5 move checkmate or anything like that. The game's about 24 moves, but what I think is really good about this game is that it's just a very well played out game that resulted in a checkmate without having to capture too many of my opponent's pieces. So without further ado, let's get started. So I have first move, and it's just pretty standard setup. Bringing out the pawns, I bring out both of my rooks, and then my opponent's bringing out his rooks and does a castle. And one thing to note, you'll notice I bring both of my pawns up here on A3 and H3. You see a lot of times a lot of people do that. The reason we do that is you see as the game progresses, it prevents the rook from being able to move in here, which is a really good position to be in. It gets them really close to your king and other pieces. So when you move your pawns up there, it prevents that from happening. Okay, so going forward some more. And I move my rook in here. Generally speaking, when you're more close to the middle of the board with especially a piece like the rook that has a very wide range, it's a really good place to be on the board. Obviously, I'm in my opponent's territory, and I have a couple places now where I can attack or capture his piece if he were to move into the wrong spot, or I were to move another piece out there. So let's see here, I castle. And again, you always want to castle. You don't have to do it immediately, but you always want to do it fairly soon in the game. Keeps your rook a little more safe, and of course your king. It makes it less likely you'll be placed in checkmate. So my opponent moves the rook here. My knight's unguarded, so obviously I move my knight out of there. He captures my knight, and I take his bishop. And then he moves his knight out of the way. So just moving through here. And this is an interesting point right here, is that we both have our queens right out the board. So clearly both of us are looking to make pretty aggressive moves here. What I'm eyeing right now is G7. And you'll notice that my bishop is facing right there. And I can get my queen there without the knight. The key is the knight's there protecting it. If that knight's not there, though, it's checkmate. Now, a lot of times chances are my opponent will move up his pawn. But I figure, why not just give it a shot, see what happens. So that's where I'm going for right now. And you'll see I'm starting to get myself in position here. And then he moves his pawn there. I move my queen. He moves another pawn. And now, of course, my opponent's bishop is right there to capture my queen. And if I were to capture his bishop, the rook would take my queen. So I move out of there again. And I'm actually starting to get into a pretty sticky situation here where he could potentially box my queen in and capture her. But fortunately, that does not happen. So we exchange pawns here. And I move my rook over to protect my bishop. And then my opponent takes my pawn. So again, at this point, I'm still focused on capturing the king right here. The only thing, of course, is that knight's in the way. So at this point, I move my own knight, just hoping to potentially get my knight in a position where he captures my own, or just something happens. I'm trying to get something to happen here to open up to checkmate. And again, the thing to note is that I'm not focused on capturing, the rooks and the knights and, the bishop and the queen. I'm just focused on checkmate. And so he does actually move his knight here. And then I move my knight to get out of the way of my bishop. And he moves his knight again. And I put my queen in position for checkmate. And at this point, there isn't really much my opponent could do. I suppose he could actually move his queen from C2 to G6 to protect the king. But my opponent, I think, is just more focused on capturing my pieces and getting checkmate, and just doesn't really see what's unfolding here. So then he moves his bishop out line with the queen, and then I move my queen in position and checkmate. So again, it's not necessarily a spectacular game. I think it's a nice thing to see, especially for beginners, to see that it's not always necessary just to capture every single piece. I know when you're starting, I did this too. You kind of take it step by step, and you're focused on capturing, every single piece until essentially there's nothing left, and you can just get checkmate. So this is a good game to see that shows you it's not always necessary to do that. And sometimes, many times, you can get checkmate without capturing almost any of your opponent's pieces, as you can see here. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you have any questions or anything you want to add, feel free to leave it in the comment section. And I'll see you guys for the next video.